This week is going to be a big week. We have Fed Powell talking today. Anytime Powell talks, the market starts going crazy.
This is actually the first trade opened live here on the Auditorium. $500 in profit already.
Good morning, TradeLocker.
I'm going to give a brief overview of just how I enter into the market. Right now, it is 9:40. Jerome Powell is going to speak at 10 a.m. So that's why I told Antonio I don't want to trade just to trade just because it's live. You know, we have some live trading sessions in the group where I just don't trade. And I purposely, even though I know it's probably going to be not a trading day, I do it because that's the reality of this game, right? So a lot of people get into it because they think excitement and hype, but the reality is that it's sometimes very boring and dry. That's just what it is. So I don't want to come in and be like, let's go on the CPI day where I know it's going to be crazy and let's try to do something nuts. That doesn't make sense to me because it's not real. That's not duplicatable every single day. But going in every single day live is duplicatable because you'll see the boring days. You'll see the hype days. You know, you see the days where it's a losing day. These are all things that are part of this journey. And so one thing about me is I never want to give you all of just fluff and no reality. This week is going to be a big week. We have Fed Powell talking today. We're jumping into the second half of the year. And the biggest talk right now for the last 3 years has been inflation. So anytime Powell talks, you already know, if you don't know by now, the market starts going crazy. And when I mean crazy, there's a lot of volatility. Thursday, we have CPI, which is a high impact news driver at 8:30, which is going to be kind of crazy as well. And Friday, we have PPI. So with a week like this, you're going to see some days before for a lot of dollar-based pairs, you might see the market consolidate up until these news events. So before we go out of time, let's get into it. All right. So I like to trade NAS, US 30, gold, AU, and GJ. Those are my favorite pairs right now. I used to trade EU a lot, but EU's been just really just dead. It's been consolidating, and I just don't want to stop trade a consolidating Forex pair. Doesn't make sense to me. But NAS obviously has a lot of volume. US 30 has a lot of volume. And so since we have about 20 minutes, I'll get into how I trade. We'll do it all on TradeLocker. And I'll be honest with you guys, I love TradeLocker, but I love it on my phone more than anything else. I think I trade on my phone like 80% of the time. And that's just kind of what life looks like for me right now. All right, so I'm gonna show you guys my entry models. I trade like two for the most part. For people that are well versed with ICT, I trade his 2022, which I'll show you in a second, and then I trade an inverse fair value gap, right? And I know there's a lot of controversy with ICT. I really don't care what the man does. I know I learned from him and it works for me. I always say there's 1,000 ways to kill a fly. Trading is 90% risk management and psychology. So save the hate for yourselves. So let's get into it. All right. So pretty much price moves off time and price, right? So you have, like, if you look at the chart, the bottom is time and the top side is price. So the market is always going to be functioning off those two things, right? So what I'm really looking at is, and I used to be a support and resistance trader. I used to really only trade market structure, which I still do, but I've learned that above old highs, there's always going to be what they call liquidity, right? So whenever you see like a high and a low, I know that there's buying above the high and there's selling above the low. So, right, you have high and a low, right? So above this, there's people waiting to buy, and above this, there's people waiting to sell, right? So pretty much all I'm doing is I'm waiting for the price to take one of these things. So let's say it runs the high, and then I'm going to a lower time frame and I'm looking to sell, right? This is the quickest way I could explain it. And on that lower time frame, I'm just looking for price to essentially break structure and create an imbalance, which would look like a little fair value gap. You've probably seen it. And then I'm entering and I'm anticipating price to reverse. You got to remember, when any time you're buying, there has to be a dollar that's selling. And I'll show you a trade I took yesterday that I posted on Instagram that for people that follow me might have saw it and wondered how. Because yesterday was super choppy, as you can see. So we were just getting in and out. But And we have 10 minutes before Powell speaks, so it's perfect. But yeah, anytime the market takes a high or a low, right? Anytime you get into the market, yeah, like if you think about it, I can't just buy something without somebody being willing to sell to me, right? Just in regular life. And that's the same thing that's happening on the market. It's just at a way higher scale with an algorithm to deliver it, right? Like there's a lot more money involved. So the idea is that whenever the market is going somewhere, is going somewhere because there's money at that price. Really just the simplest way to break it down.
There's a question regarding the Powell speech, if you want to answer it. What do
Yeah, what is it?
what do you predict for USD after the Powell speach?
So I'm glad you asked that. I never look at the Powell speeches as like, oh, I think it's going to go up, it's going to go down from that. I still use the chart. The way I use news is I know there's going to be volatility on that day. I don't really believe that the news I think the news is more of a way for money to be moved than it is a reason or the driving factor in the market, if that makes sense. So like at the fundamental level, I believe the markets are rigged wholeheartedly. I could show it to you in another time, but that's not a live trading time. But I really believe the markets are rigged. You're not telling me otherwise. And so with that in mind, I believe the news event is so that is there to create liquidity, is to create a reason for the market to move so that money can be exchanged. So when I look at something like a Powell speech, I just know there's going to be a lot of movement. And me being a margin trader, right? All of us, I really don't care essentially to predict it. I just want to get my money. I want to get my coin and get out. That's the idea. So yesterday, for example, I was really looking at a couple little highs and lows. And because I knew it was going to be a day where it was a lot more consolidated than normal, I knew I just wanted to get in and get out. And all I was doing was waiting for a high or a low to get taken and then looking for my entry model, which I just showed you guys. So when this screen loads, I'll show you what I did yesterday and then what we'll look for today. And while this loads, I'll just touch on predictions, right? Like, because I think a lot of people, when you're new, you want to predict the market and you want to be the one to predict the market. I know because that was me. I would actually, my early Instagram, when I was really first building my community was a lot of like, this is my prediction for the week. Oh, look, I predicted it. And the thing is, trading is a lot like sales, right? So like in sales, I used to do sales. You get trained to do behaviors and not focus on the results. It's a numbers game. They want you to close like 10% every 100 opportunities, which is the same thing in trading, but you want better odds. So they look at behaviors like, okay, you can't control if someone buys from you, right? The parallel would be you can't control if you win your trade. What can you control? You can control your behaviors, right? You can control, did you do every single behavior for your sales? Did you do every single behavior for your trading? It's the same exact thing. It's a behavior-based business. You're looking to see, can you create good habits within the market so that win or lose, in the long run, your edge is going to prevail. That's going to be I have to go to a lower time frame. What's going on? That's going to be the idea, right? Like, yeah, a good trader is never like hyping up about predictions. They're worried about like probabilities. But yeah, I like days like this because when you're not too, you might not be a trading day with high impact news coming tomorrow or later in the week, or it might be a shorter trading day. And it's a good teaching point especially when you're doing like a prop firm. So I think the biggest reason people fail prop firms is you're in a rush. Like you're in a rush and you're trying to get it all and win that challenge today. And right now on this trading session, when, it's something that you really got to do by break sometimes. All right, let's see. I just got it to load, I'm telling you. So it's 9:55. How we'll approach this news. And that kind of cut into my time to explain what I did yesterday, but that's okay. We'll just go into today. So what I'm looking at, obviously this market is doing what? It's consolidating, right? There's a lot of money essentially above the high and below the low. Right. So a lot of times you'll see this and you'll even see the market like hit both sides, go lower, go higher, and then make its move. On a news day like this, that's kind of what I'm anticipating. I want to see something get taken out and then I look to go longer. I'm personally bullish on NAS and US 30. So that's my overall higher time frame bias. Even though I'm day trading and I'm scalping and I'm on these lower time frames like the 15 and the 5, I'm still always going to be aware of like where do I think my macro is going? Where do I think my higher time frame is? Like what do I think the daily time frame is doing? Because if not, you're going to get lost in the sauce. So if you're someone that's trying to scalp because it's been hyped in these last couple of years, don't forget the higher time frame. because that's probably where a lot of your losses are coming from by neglecting the higher time frame. All right, so price took this high. I want to see if I get my entry confirmation on the lower time frame. And I just marked off the 15-minute time frame, high and low. On a 1 hour time frame, these whole sections of candles make up Asia and London. When you use like the NQ chart, which is the one you pay extra with for the contract, I don't really think it's necessary, but those sessions is just actually just a big gap because it's only going to be charting the session for New York because it's only tracking NASDAQ for the month of July through whatever. I think it's July through September, October. And so if you have that chart and you see it, you'll see it as a big gap. That's why it's really just Asia and London. And because of e-trading, this is why we have this time in between. So what I'm waiting for right now, I'm waiting for price to give me like a nice clean break of structure and create a fair value gap. It already swept the high. So I'm just waiting for my model to present itself.
It's going right in that direction, if I'm seeing correctly.
Yeah, I want to see that low, but I want it to give me some type of entry. I don't want to just pull it just to pull it. Because I get a lot of questions in my group like, oh, like how do you manage, the impulse? Like how do you not chase a trade? Those types of things. I'll be honest, that feeling never goes away. You just kind of learn to just deal with it. Like once it took the high, I was bearish, and seeing a candle like this, I still want to like go and start pressing buttons, but I just know better. So I'm just dying to that emotion. And that's just kind of what you have to do. It never goes away. As you build and you refine your strategy and you gather more data on yourself, you start to see how it benefits in the long run. And you can do that by live trading and journaling, or getting like a back testing simulator. Those are two quick ways to build that trust in your edge. But yeah, we're just waiting right now for this to give me some type of look.
What was the exact news? Did you find it?
It's Powell testifying. It's Jerome Powell.
Yeah. Is there a conclusion already or not?
No, so he's just going to be talking for the next like 25 minutes, about 30 minutes. And then, but usually between now and 10:30, there's already normally a move in New York. But with Powell speaking, there's going to be more of a move. What I'm looking for is it going to be just a manipulative move where the market just keeps wicking within this range, or is it going to be something that makes a big move? Like if for example, US 30 had a huge drop over this last 5 minutes. But my focus is NAS today, so just sitting and waiting, because that's what a lot of trading is. Sitting and waiting. I can control the fact that I'm not going to risk, 10% of my account when, I'm either going to pass this in one shot or not.
Yep.
That you know what I mean? But I focus on my behaviors. I know every morning I get on, I have my routine, I do my analysis the night before. Sometimes I even like to back test right before, right leading into the session I'm going to trade.
So sometimes you analyze the night before, and then in the morning you're more confident.
I always analyze the night before, like if there's reason, because sometimes the market didn't do nothing, right? Like for example, like if you do a long-term outlook, I used to do a top-down analysis every week, but it got to the point like it didn't make sense. Like what am I on the month candle for? It's only been a week. Nothing happened. It's like work smarter. So I want to see. So this is a fair value gap. This is this other way I trade. I have like 10 videos of like trade examples that I've taken like this. What I want to see is I want to see price trade through this fair value gap. And then what I mean by that is I want to see the candle body close past this gap. And then I'm going to take a trade. And if you're staring at the candle right now, like itching to take a trade, like there's 2 minutes left on the candle. So just breathe, just chill, relax. The market's not going nowhere.
I like how when we do the auditorium and we constantly post everything and try to explain to people, and every trader out there talks about being patient, as you as well, and everything. And this is the first time that we have that. This is the first time that we have that live. It's like, this is it. This is how it's supposed to look like. You have to stare at your screen and you have to be patient.
Yeah, I honestly, I'll give it to ICT and his mentorship on YouTube. Like there were times where he would do live trading and he would purposely choose a day that it wasn't going to be much going on. And he would just sit there for like 3 hours and just talk about it. And but I was like, dang, that's so real. Because when you're sitting in this type of market, forcing and chasing trades, that's how you get cooked. But yeah, my confirmation is going to be the candle body close. Like if it were to if it stays like this for the next 30 seconds, depending on how far this candle runs away from this gap, I want to, it's going to kind of be my next order of operation. So and I'm really big on this. I think a lot of trading as you're making your theories and thinking it through is if and then statements to keep the things like theoretical. So if it were to get too far away from this gap, I'm going to wait for price to trade. Here we go. Like that, I'm going to wait for price to I want to wait for price to trade back into it is what I was going to say. And if it takes this low, I'm not looking for price to go there anymore. But what I was going to say is I wanted to see if we could get it run back in, but we'll see what happens. When this 5-minute candle closes, I'll look for price to retrace into that gap, which I know it just refreshed, but I wait for price to come back into that gap. There is a breaker in there, and that's what I look to trade. But I have to wait for this candle to close to get a better idea. And so this was, I said there's 2 entries I take. One I showed you before, which is actually what's happening now. These 2 bearish candles before this big bullish candle that ran the high, that is my breaker. The first model that we kind of missed out on was the inverse fair value gap. That's on my Instagram. I just didn't have time to show with all the technical issues. That I'm waiting. So that would have been what I was explaining there, where you wait for the gap, and when price trades through it and closes, then you can take the trade and put your stop above. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to it, but I want to see what this next candle does. I'm interested. Now I'm engaged, especially too because in the next 2 minutes, the 30-minute candle is going to close also. So it's a lot of moving pieces that's going to tell me more about what the market wants to do. Because ultimately, I'm waiting for the market to kind of show its hand for those that like poker. And right now, I haven't. It's showing me his hand, but not enough to make me, call.
We have a question in the comment section.
What's up?
Check it out. What time frame do you use to trade, and do you go for LTF confirmation?
So we're on the lower time frame now. Sometimes I'll get in even like on the 1 minute, 1 and 5, between 1 and 5's entry time frame. That's my lower time frame confirmation. But my analysis is done top down. So I'll look at the monthly, weekly, daily, 4 hour, 1 hour, auto 15, all the way through. The reason I do that is because I want to know, what's the general direction? The trend, even if you're scalping, the trend is still your friend at the end of the day. There's no, it doesn't ever stop being your friend. And so I'm using the lower time frame. That would be my entry, but I already have a bias based off daily, weekly, and stuff like that. So on a daily perspective, we're above yesterday's high. So what we're anticipating, personally, I actually think that this might be the high for the day, this run that just came in at 9:30. And the idea is that we can just get in with it if we can get some type of pullback, but it might be going. But that's why I like, and I noticed you guys, what I love about TradeLocker is you guys are making updates, so like, for example, there wasn't always this timer for the candles, but I'm really big on the timer for the candles because I like to know when the candle's going to close so that I'm thinking it's a confirmation, but it's quick. So I really, really am happy with that update, the details.
Well, we are building features based on community feedback, but we also think about general population of traders and what they need. And we always try to, when we say we're going to do something, we always try to find a way to make it better than what you've seen before. So, for example, when we released the risk calculator, we weren't just, going to make it basic. We needed to make it so that the order amount, order size, everything, so that you can execute a trade. Also, for example, trailing stop loss, we couldn't do just the basic one. We wanted to make it better somehow. So we made it, our backend developers worked really hard so that the feature can also run on backend, and it runs on backend. So you don't have to have the app open all the time to make it to use the trailing stop loss. So that's kind of like 2 examples, but there are more.
Yeah, I'm on the 15-minute. I just wanted to pop out and see. So when we talked about this high and low earlier, we saw price make an aggressive run here, and that's where we were looking to short on the lower time frame. So if we haven't asked for the lower time frame confirmation, that's why I was on the 5-minute, is I was looking for price to confirm this move once we came above. But I just want to show you how it ran above and it came for the lows, right? And so you're thinking there's money up here and there's money below here, and it came and went up for the pre-news, came down during the news. And what I'm looking for price to kind of tell me is, are we going to get a continuation lower? If we can get a little, and so sometimes if you miss the 5 minute, the lower time frame entry, if you're knowing where the higher time frame is, you can jump up a time frame and you didn't really miss the move. You could just take the same entry on a different time frame since price is fractal, meaning what happens on one time frame happens. So every swing trade, for months started on a 1 minute time frame. So if I miss it on the 1 minute, I'm just going to look for it to give me something on the 5 and 15. And that's something that's kind of what I'm looking for now, but it's not going to give me the fair value gap I want.
Seems
so
like
I'm going to jump
up and
yeah. So the third, it was either we were going to get a big move or consolidate ahead of the news tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. So depending on this next kind of 20 minutes, kind of letting me know what we're going to do here. We're going to have a bigger move, or are we just going to be stuck in the range? I want to see what price does when it gets to this breaker, which I'm going to mark off right now in just a second.
Can you explain why did you put it there?
Yeah, so it's really these two bearish candles before this bullish candle that took the high. I'll just put it at the bottom because that's the minimum where I want to see. That would be where my entry would be.
Okay.
Some people that seen the fair value, they probably say like, why don't I take it off of this big gap here? Simply it's just too big of a gap. I like to try to get more of a refined entry. So when I see a bigger gap, which is like 20, 25 handles already, I want to see if I can refine that entry a little bit. Also, and I don't have this set to my custom settings, but I do use the Fibonacci to really just look if we're above or below 50. My eyes are very trained at this point to where like I've done this enough to where I can eyeball it and be okay. But we're still in a discount of the range, meaning we're below 50%. So I think like a business you want to buy on discount, sell at a premium. So if I'm looking at short, I want to see price run up above that 50, which is just about that line where I put just above our breaker. So what my trade would look like, we just came just a little bit shy. I do have to account for this gap. So I'll be looking at something like this and I'm going to target the low. What I like to do, it's just me, is a personal thing. I like, if my target's like a wick low, I like to put it just below that or just before that wick, just because I want to make sure I secure my bag. Because I'm sure everybody who's been trading here knows like sometimes you'll have your take profit at a high. It'll come right before that high and reverse on you and either break you even or stop you out. So I just got tired of that happening, and I'd rather miss out on a few extra dollars than take that L.
All right. So that's your stop loss, your lot size, take profit.
Boom. Okay. Yeah, my position is open. It's a $740 risk.
Okay.
Which is like 0.7. The funded account, I think, is just loaded now. Or the challenge.
Right. This is actually the first trade that was done open live here on the auditorium. So thank you, Nick, for doing that.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's crazy. I'm the first one. It's always a pleasure to be on here. I love the space, love the community, and I love the vision of TradeLocker. I think it's for the people. If we're going to take the first trade, we got to show the end, win or lose. There we go. So this is kind of my edge. I live and die by it just because it's tested. I know that I can expect some type of result over time if I manage my risk accordingly.
How much is it in profit right now?
All right, now it was just like 500, like fluctuating.
Wow.
But this thing is slowing, yeah.
So this is, basically you did it and it's in a couple of minutes, $500 in profit already.
We gotta let it play out, but we get in towards that closed window. But yeah, it's cool to be the first one to take it on the auditorium for sure.
It's even better to see it in profit.
Yeah, I think it's hard to come on, take a trade, because sometimes if you lose, not everybody can understand that, you know what I mean? But I don't care. For lack of a better word, I really don't care because ultimately it's part of the game. And more than anything else, I want y'all to leave with like, okay, this is how it's really, this is real. Like you could take it, win or lose. You're not supposed to be attached to the outcome. Every single one of my behaviors were met, right? I got my rules. I got my sweep. I got my break, I got my gap. There's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And so it's just, if anything, you leave, because I know I shout out to DJ and Gary and Maurice. I think I seen y'all from the last, and Sheriff, because I seen you guys, those names consistently. I'm sure there was other people, but anybody that was here throughout the whole thing, you got to really see and sit through, waiting for the market to give you an opportunity, waiting for things to kind of just play out and be through that boring phase, and then just see like, okay, it's a process oriented thing.
Kieran, the people behind you on their computer also trading. No, these guys are developers and they are the ones building the TradeLocker platform. Not just the two of them. There's also lots of other rooms over here. But yeah, these guys are developers. Guys, the only thing you had to do today was come here in the auditorium, listen to what Nick had to say, be with us, talk about some interesting stuff, and you'll be in profit right now. Thank you
Definitely.
For being here, guys. Go on his Instagram, follow him over there, and you'll see more of these trades being taken, and join his community, join his Zoom calls, and you'll be able to learn these simple strategies also.
Thanks so much, Antonio. I appreciate you having me. Thank you for everybody that tuned in. It truly was a blessing.